Hey everyone, welcome back to Share Science, the weekly science brief for the week of March 16th, 2026. I'm Curie.
And I'm Derek.
Okay, so here's something to think about. Every week, the average person consumes about a credit card's worth of plastic. And now, scientists are saying those tiny plastic particles might be making their way into our brains.
That's unsettling, to say the least. But I'm guessing that's not the only story you've got lined up for us today.
Not even close. This week, we're covering 5 stories that are as diverse as they are fascinating. We've got new research linking severe respiratory infections like COVID-19 or the flu to an increased risk of lung cancer years later. Then, astronomers caught 2 planets in the act of destroying each other, an actual cosmic collision.
That already sounds like a lot, but I know you're just getting started.
Oh, absolutely. We're also diving into how physicists finally solved a 20-year mystery about where gold comes from in the universe. Plus, there's a breakthrough antibiotic that can kill one of the deadliest gut infections without wrecking your microbiome. And of course, we'll wrap up with the microplastics story, because that one affects every single person listening.
All right, let's get into it. Where do you want to start?
Let's kick things off with the respiratory infections and lung cancer risk. It's a heavy topic, but it's so important. So here's what researchers found. Having a severe respiratory infection, like COVID-19 or the flu, could elevate your risk of developing lung cancer later in life. Not immediately, but months or even years down the line.
That's a pretty bold claim. How does that even work? What's happening in the lungs to cause this?
It all comes down to inflammation. When you get a severe respiratory infection, your immune system goes into overdrive, flooding your lung tissue with inflammatory cells to fight off the virus. That's normal. It's how your body protects itself. But in some cases, this inflammation doesn't fully go away after the infection clears. Instead, it lingers, creating chronic inflammation. And that chronic inflammation can make it easier for tumor cells to take hold and grow.
So it's not the virus itself causing the cancer, it's the aftermath of the immune system's response?
Exactly. This is very different from how, say, HPV causes cervical cancer by inserting its viral genes into host DNA. Here, the virus doesn't directly alter your DNA. Instead, it's about the environment the infection leaves behind. Chronic inflammation is already a known risk factor for several cancers, like colorectal and liver cancer. This study extends that understanding to the lungs, showing how serious respiratory infections can have long-term consequences.
That's a lot to process. What does this mean for people who've had severe COVID or flu? Should they be worried?
That's an important question. The researchers emphasize that the elevated risk is relative, not absolute. Most people who've had severe COVID or flu won't develop lung cancer. The risk is more significant for people who already have other risk factors, like smokers, former smokers, or those with chronic lung conditions. For them, it's worth discussing proactive screening with their doctors.
And what about prevention? Is there anything people can do to lower their risk?
Vaccination is a big one. Vaccines reduce the severity of infections, which in turn reduces the inflammatory response. So getting vaccinated against both the flu and COVID-19 isn't just about avoiding the immediate illness. It might also have long-term benefits for your lung health.
That's a really helpful perspective. It's not just about the short-term effects, it's about the ripple effects years down the line.
Exactly. And for anyone interested, they can search for the study using keywords like COVID, flu, lung cancer, chronic inflammation, 2026.
All right, let's shift gears. I've been waiting all week to talk about this next story. Astronomers catching 2 planets destroying each other. That's wild.
It really is. Astronomers at the University of Washington published evidence of a planetary collision happening 11,000 light-years away. The lead researcher even described it as completely bonkers.
Okay, so how did they even find this? It's not like you can just look up and see planets smashing into each other.
It started with a researcher named Andy Xanadakis combing through years of archival telescope data. He noticed that a sun-like star, called Gaia 20eHK, was behaving strangely. Its brightness was flickering in a way that didn't match any known stellar behavior.
And that's when they decided to dig deeper?
Exactly. They looked at the star in infrared light, and that's where things got really interesting. They found that when the visible light dipped, the infrared spiked. That's a key clue. It means the material blocking the star's light was extremely hot, glowing in infrared. The only event that can cause that is a catastrophic collision between large planetary bodies.
So, two planets spiraling into each other, smashing apart, and creating this massive debris cloud?
That's right. And the reason this is such a rare observation is because the geometry has to be perfect. The debris cloud has to pass between the star and us, and the observations have to cover the entire timeline of the event, which can take years.
It's incredible to think about. Somewhere out there, planets are being destroyed while we're sitting here talking about it.
It's a reminder of how dynamic and violent the universe can be. For anyone curious, they can search Gaia 20eK Planetary Collision 2026 for more details and some amazing illustrations.
Let's keep the cosmic theme going. You said there's new research about how gold is made in the universe?
Yes, and it's absolutely fascinating. Scientists have finally cracked a 20-year mystery about the nuclear processes that create gold.
Why was gold such a mystery in the first place?
It's because gold is much heavier than iron, and stars can only fuse elements up to iron. Anything heavier requires extreme conditions, like the rapid neutron capture process, or R process. This happens in events like neutron-star collisions or certain types of stellar explosions.
So, what did the researchers figure out?
A team at the University of Tennessee, working with CERN's Isolde accelerator, made key discoveries about how unstable atomic nuclei decay during the R process. These nuclei are so unstable they only exist for fractions of a second. But understanding their decay resolves long-standing discrepancies in our models of how heavy elements, like gold, are formed.
It's mind-blowing to think that every piece of gold on Earth was forged in some cosmic explosion billions of years ago.
It's poetic, isn't it? The atoms in your wedding ring are older than the Earth itself. For anyone wanting to dive deeper, they can search R Process Gold Nuclear Mystery, Isolde 2026.
All right, let's bring it back down to Earth. You mentioned a new antibiotic for C. diff?
Yes, it's called EVG7, and it's a game changer. It targets Clostridioides difficile, or C. diff, without destroying the healthy bacteria in your gut.
That's huge. The current treatments for C. diff often cause more problems than they solve.
Exactly. C. diff infections are notorious for recurring because the standard treatments wipe out the gut microbiome, leaving patients vulnerable to reinfection. EVG7, however, is highly specific. It targets C. diff while leaving the rest of the microbiome largely intact.
That's precision medicine at its best.
Absolutely. It's still early, but the results are promising. Anyone interested can search EVG7 Antibiotic C. diff Microbiome 2026 for more details.
And now for the unsettling one. Microplastics and the brain. What's the latest?
New research suggests that microplastics, which are everywhere, might be triggering inflammation in the brain and contributing to conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
How widespread is microplastic exposure?
It's universal. Microplastics are in our food, water, air, and even our bodies. Studies estimate we consume about a credit card's worth of plastic every week.
And now we're finding out they can cross the blood-brain barrier?
Yes, and once in the brain, they activate immune cells called microglia, leading to chronic inflammation. This could increase susceptibility to neurodegenerative diseases.
What can people do to reduce exposure?
Filter your water, avoid heating food in plastic, and ventilate your home regularly. Small steps can make a difference.
It's a sobering reminder of how our environment impacts us in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Absolutely. For more, search Microplastics, Brain, Neuroinflammation, Alzheimer's, 2026.
That's a wrap. What a week. So much to think about.
It's weeks like this that remind me why we do this. Science is complicated, but understanding it better is always worth it.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, take care.
And stay curious.